Let's thank God for Dr. Price, who has led us through this program. And I think equal in importance has worked passionately to preserve our story. As I sat here today, I had mixed emotions. My first response, Michael, was somebody's got to tell the truth. Thank you for telling the truth, because the Gus I knew spoke with numerous expletives. And the Gus that I heard about today sounded more like a priest. But the Gus I knew would just straight up cuss you out, all right? And so it makes it interesting for me in my profession to have been so close to Gus, but I started long before I was a preacher. I was introduced to Gus Heningburg by Gene Heningburg, and I was introduced to Gus with a few of my friends because we wanted to burn Montclair High School down. And we planned to burn Montclair High School down. This wasn't just a desire. We had a plan. And Mrs. Heningburg, who worked at Montclair High School, said, before you do that, perhaps you'd like to talk to my husband. And it was 1968. Newark was still reeling from rebellion the year before. The nation was still confused after the death of Dr. King. And the people in Montclair were determined not to let any of that rebellious spirit come to town. Because Lynn Coleman had already left us up there with all them folks. And so when they told us we could not do what we wanted to do for us, we decided, about 6 of us, that we'd buy some gasoline from Bobby Pine's gas station, and we'd circle the school and just burn it down. Now, none of us were sure bricks would burn, but we were going to try. We were going to try. So Gene Heningburg said, why don't you come, and out of our respect for her, who was the only African-American adult at that time who stood up for us, we said, we will come over to Maplewood and speak to your husband. Now, behind her back, we said, what can a black man named Heningburg tell us about our situation living in Maplewood? But we went over there, and just as the sister said, he listened to us talk, and after we gave him, we quoted Stokely Carmichael. We had our red book from Mao Zedong in our pockets, you know. We were ready to burn, baby, burn. And Gus basically looked at us and said, okay, I get it. You'll burn the school down, and then they'll put your little black expletives in jail, and then they'll build a new school. And you'll be in jail, and they'll have a school. And I left there, and I said, okay, see, I knew that a man named Heningburg couldn't help us, and so I said, let's go see Baraka. You know, let us go see Imamu Baraka. He believes in black power. He's been to jail. I mean, let's go see. And so we went to 502 High Street, and we said, Baraka, we need your help. Imperiali's up here helping his people. We need some help. And one fella, I think it was, well, I won't call his name because he's controversial now, but he said, have you talked to anybody else? He said, yeah, we talked to Gus Heningburg. I said, well, what did Gus say? And we told him what Gus said, and I was just sitting there waiting for my radical hero to tell me everything wrong with what Gus Heningburg said with his moderate self. And Baraka said, well, I agree with Gus. I said, well, this is a mess. And from that day until the last time I talked to Kay, and Gus was too weak to talk, Gus was a guiding light, someone who did not simply see the problem, but someone who was immersed in offering solutions to problems. But we all know that. What's so striking about this moment is that your presence contributes to this family having just a little bit more closure. We were at the cemetery in Winston-Salem a while back. It was freezing down there. I always thought the South was warm, but it was freezing down there. And I watched these grandchildren, and of course, Gus and Anne Marie, and I was with Gus's brother. You think Gus has some stories. My God, his brother got some. I'm not sure half of them stories are true, but they're good stories. They're always good stories. And I was there with that family, and I watched them wrestle with the reality of their future. And I don't care how big you are or how important you are, you know, death is an unwelcome visitor. I don't care how religious you are. You know, everybody in my church, y'all ran me out of North Jersey, so I got a little church down in Central Jersey. Everybody in my church wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. You know, and nobody wants to go to heaven tomorrow. This is not easy. And I want to thank all of you, not just today, but through the process of helping this family who did give so much through Gus to us, of celebrating. I mean, this is long, from 2 to 5. If somebody had a 3-hour funeral in my church, I'd fire them. But this is important for this family, for in addition to the memories of what Gus did with and for them, they will remember this gathering. It will be equity in their spiritual capital as they press their way forward. So thank you for coming. But I think a part of what tugs at our hearts, Juniors, is that we know that when we leave here, there is no Gus Heningburg to call. You know, when A. Philip Randolph introduced Dr. King at the March on Washington, he didn't introduce him as a great preacher. And he didn't introduce him as a civil rights leader. He introduced him on that day in 1968 as the moral leader of the nation. And a part of our struggle today is that leadership has become such a business that leaders who are not celebrities are not considered leaders. And this generation, your major contribution, Heningburg family, in keeping and preserving the memory of Gus alive is a challenge this country and this state and this community to remember that just because you're famous doesn't make you great. We have confused fame with greatness. We have a lot of people, Lynn, who are famous, and their lives are meaningless, worthless, and sometimes embarrassing. But we have others who are great, who work behind the scenes and after hours and on weekends. They're not on the cover of magazines. They don't have 1 million followers on Twitter. But they make such a difference in other people's lives that they change reality. I'm so proud to see these young councilmen sitting here for 3 hours. I'm sick of politicians. Who else? I don't know who else is here, but I don't let politicians do drive-bys at First Baptist. Come in, wave, and leave, because these young men are our future. And the young Barakas and the young Sharifs, and these young men who are now responsible for taking us into our future, they are the ones who, like Gus, are going to have to speak truth to power. They're the ones who are going to have to defend the rights of people that leaders have left behind. They are the ones who are going to have to continue pressing for economic parity and social justice. And I am sad, not because Gus is gone. The Lord knows nobody wants to stay here forever. But I'm saddened by the reality that we need leaders who are willing to be selfless and sometimes faceless and nameless, taking pride in the accomplishment rather than taking credit for the story. And that's what Gus Heningburg was for me and for countless numbers of others. And so if we really do love this family, then we should love this family. Not just at the gathering where we say goodbye, but in the days and months and years to come. My father died in 1975, and there's some mornings that I wake up now with tears in my eyes. And so don't let this send-off be farewell for this family. What's mine is yours if you ever need it. But the greater challenge for us, Baraka said it, is to answer the question, can we ever come together again like we did back then to do what future generations need us to do? I was a student at Rutgers in 1970 when that campaign first happened, and we would charter buses at the invitation of Baraka to come to Newark. And we slept on the floors at I think it was there, Scudder Homes, Stella Wright, somewhere, one of them tall buildings. We slept on the floors, Baraka, on weekends as college students passing out flyers because Ken Gibson was running against a mayor under indictment and almost lost. Had to go into a runoff. And today, some of the same forces that almost stopped that movement is back in town trying to stop the new movement. So if we really love Gus Heningburg, we will rise above our temptation to look out for ourselves and to blend into the fabric and go along, to get along, and do whatever it takes to bring justice for the future of our children. Now, we like funerals, you know, on the celebration side, but the fact is God left us here to do something other than to thank God for what Gus did. And I believe that we have to invest more than we ever have before if we are to ever have someone who, like Dr. King was for the nation, the moral leader of our state. And so Longfellow said it in that poem that I hated to memorize when I was a child, but I had to do it, so it stuck with me, when he said, lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime, and departing leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. Thank God for Gus and his footprints. He made Sharp a better mayor. He made Newark a better city. He made New Jersey a better state. He made these children better people. He made me a better pastor, although he didn't come to church. In fact, I asked him not to come. And I told him, if you do come, warn me so I can get some insurance so when the roof caves in, I can get paid. But his footprints will be in the sands of time. And if we would follow his footsteps and walk in his footsteps, then perhaps some of us will emerge to be described like these children described Gus Heningburg, as a great father, as a great grandfather, as a great friend, as a great brother, as a great leader, as a great child of God. Thank you so much for letting me have these words.